Without, without further ado, I'm going to set my timer, which is in front of me just a second. And Liz, you're going to speak for around 10 minutes about is the industry ready to build back better? Just so everyone knows, I'm going to give both Philip and Liz a bit of a warning when they're at 2 minutes and when they're at 1 minute to go. So that's me making funny signs on the Zoom rather than anything else nefarious going on. So Liz, are you ready? Am I ready to press my button?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Fantastic. So Liz, 10 minutes. Why is the industry ready to build back better?
Okay. Well, we saw from this year, once we were given the go status on the 19th of July that events could happen. There was a flurry of activity, lots of people moved dates and everything else to be able to host their events. There were a huge number of very successful events held this year, not without their own sort of curveballs and trials. There have been issues with crew and plant and transport and availability of kit. But the resilient bunch that we are in events, we showed that we are absolutely ready to come back. You know, we even prior to being given the go-ahead for events, the events industry themselves helped to put temporary hospitals together. They built COVID testing centres. Lots and lots of temporary infrastructure was put into place by the people who normally are doing an event for a living. So we never stopped, even though we were, excuse me, not able to do what we loved. We found ways to help be useful. So we never lost our skills. We never lost the momentum. I think one thing we learned from this year is that collaboration is an absolute must. People were talking much more than they normally do, just to get over any of the hurdles that were put in front of us. Okay, we didn't quite have the planning times we wanted, but we made it work. People are getting organised now. There's a record number of inquiries out there. But to match that, there's a record number of events happening next year. Anything from festivals to big shows, tours, sporting events. We've got the Queen's Jubilee, there's the golf, the Commonwealth Games. There is so much happening next year. If anything, you know, the other thing that we're going to have to very much do is know our limitations. That's a positive thing. Know what we're capable of, just how much we can deliver, and to do it really, really well. There have been record ticket sales. We've all seen the big promoters around the world announcing, you know, huge profit margins. And that's all because of the desire to attend events. So we know that our passion for what we do and the need to get back out there doing it properly is matched by the people wanting to come to these events, whether it's music, sport, culture, local events or international events. At the moment, the world is open, although Europe is struggling a little bit, but hopefully that's just a blip on the landscape. I think one of the things that we have to be aware of, that demand may outstrip supply, but we will find a way around it. People will adapt. They will do what needs to be done to make things work. The balance will be redressed a little, and people will talk and people will work together to make it happen. We can't be complacent. We're not a complacent group of individuals and companies, but we very, very much know everything that it takes to put on a successful event. From the sessions this morning, it was quite apparent that people have looked at things differently, found ways to embrace new legislation, new guidelines, new desires from the public, and things can be done very, very successfully. In fact, you know, one of the first events to happen this year was Stand and Calling Festival. It sadly had to close its doors on the Sunday, but nothing to do with COVID, but that was due to really, really heavy rains. So it just shows that we can overcome the huge hurdle of COVID. We can get around it. Systems are in place. People are willing to take tests, take the extra time to log on to portals and show that they've done their lateral flow test. It's become part of an everyday process for most people. There's even an insurance program in place. Quite how it'll pan out is still in the early days, It's not as straightforward as perhaps we'd hoped, but it's something there for us to build on. There are also issues with supply chain, but there are many other success stories coming out. Many of you may have heard of Doughty Engineering. They manufacture and supply our industry with a huge amount of products, predominantly rigging materials. They've got a completely full record order book at the moment. They're struggling to meet demand. So there is obviously a huge need for their kit as people start to plan and get ready for events. We can do it better. We can learn from things. We've had 18 months to sit back and really contemplate our businesses. Many people have had to streamline what they do, but they've also become better at what they do. So they're ready to face the challenges that are being put upon us at the moment. All sorts of groups have been formed, whether it's to discuss and tackle environmental issues or diversity and inclusion. People have had time to do this, time to build relationships. And as we are planning to come back better, we really are going to do it better. We're going to be safer, we're going to be more inclusive, we're going to protect our planet. And most importantly, we're going to deliver great, memorable events that are just going to be impregnated in just there in people's memories for many more years to come. They may be very different to how they've been before, but the sheer joy of seeing people enjoying events is what motivates us as an industry. We will continue. It is going to be so much better than it was before. And we're going to enjoy it more because we've missed it. You don't know what you know, until it's gone, you don't miss certain things in your life. I never thought I would miss the 24/7 constant demand on my time, but I have, and I'm loving being back in it. And just to see people, the sheer joy of having a face-to-face meeting, whether it's for a coffee or at a networking event, the sheer, the delight is there on people's faces. Unfortunately, we're not all in the same room this year, but next year we will be, and already people are talking about it. So I think, yes, we are ready to build back better. It's not going to be easy. There are going to be challenges, but that's what we're used to as an industry. And we've proved time and time again that in times of adversity, we can succeed. And I think, I look forward to hearing Philip's, chance to try and contradict me.
Brilliant. Look at that. And in true event organizer style, you've come in well under budget on time. I don't know whether under budget, under time on time, they'll call that, rather than under budget, this guy through. So thank you very much. That was really passionate and really lovely. Thank you very much, Liz. I would, of course, remind anyone watching that there's the Q&A function and the raise a hand. So if you have a point to make, to either agree or disagree with the guys, that would be great. Or if you just want to make it in the Q&A function, you can do so as well. So Philip, hang on just a second while I just set my timer again. Are you good to go? If I press button, are you good to attack the motion? Ready, steady, off you go, Philip.
Once upon a time, I got a phone call. This time I got a phone call not 5 minutes into the session, but a couple of weeks before the session was due to start, and it was Susan and Al, and they said, we're planning a debate. Is the event industry in a position to build back better? Will it build back better? And I said, that's a great idea. I said, come on, Bournemouth Sevens, Craig, you had the best event ever this year. Locally, Ringwood Fireworks, 6,000 people plus. We only had 4,000 last year. We got this huge light switch on and market this Sunday with 50% more stalls booked in. Of course it's going to build back better. What? By the way, what poor sop have you got to argue against this motion to a room full of event professionals? And then Al came in with the one-liner. Well, actually, we were thinking you might like to do that. And I said, what? You want me to tell these guys, these event professionals, that they're all doomed? It'll be like asking turkeys to vote for Christmas. You've got to be kidding. At which point Al said, well, you're the one who's always preaching doom and gloom. And, you know, on one occasion, not so very long ago, he even painted a black cloud over my head on one of these things. You know, that wasn't fair, Al, and so on. And then he said, and by the way, you're a solicitor. You get paid to defend the indefensible, to protect the guilty and all that. And I suppose he had a point, but I'm not actually getting paid for this. But anyway, that got me thinking, and it got me thinking quite hard, because I don't like losing arguments or debates. In fact, I never do. If I don't win, then I came second. Didn't ever lose it. So I thought, well, okay, you've pointed out I'm a lawyer, and so let's start off by being a lawyer and let's examine the motion. What are you guys and girls being asked to vote for? And ready to build back better. Better than what, please? You know, we talking the pyramids of Giza here? We talking the Leaning Tower of Pisa? I don't know what we're supposed to be building back better than. Or maybe they meant build the events industry back better than it was in 2020. Well, that's not exactly a very high bar to jump, is it? Not really. But better than 2021? Well, that's a bit of a higher bar, because at least a few things happened in 2021, but it's not really a very high bar at all. So, ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to interpret the motion, as you must do, as actually meaning to build back better than before COVID. Now then, that'll do as a start for the debate. So, on that basis, why aren't we, the event industry, ready to build back better? Or more to the point, what's stopping us? Well, Liz has mentioned it's all getting better. We've now got this insurance scheme in place, but yeah, as was said, there's lots of hurdles to that one, and it's blooming expensive, and we all know what insurers are like with exclusion clauses and all of that. Well, what about the infrastructure? That's the stuff that actually needs building. Well, sadly, all manner of suppliers didn't make it through lockdown, especially those with their own little companies, being paid as directors, no furlough for them, no government grant, no support, and I'm afraid it was bye-bye, never to come back. Even those who survived are having serious supply problems. And, you know, Susan mentioned it earlier, that she's raising this at a high level to see what can be done to address it. You know, even things like toilets and marquees, try booking them for next year. Try booking them, just out of matter of interest, for what we hope will be the Jubilee celebrations. And you'll find that there is an acute shortage, because people want them for the weddings that are taking place in their back gardens. Oh yes, of course, weddings, those are events that will certainly take off in 2022, but they're not actually our sort of events, are they? Not really, so we'll discount them. So what else do you need for an event? You need the infrastructure, you need the people. Got a slight problem there as well, haven't we? Again, we heard earlier on a plea from Tom to make it easier for people to get back into the security industry, because there's a huge shortage. What about drivers? Well, there's a huge shortage of those as well. What about the artists, the performers? Report in the paper the other day that over 80% of them just haven't got any bookings, because that's the way the world is going round. And what about the other people, the people that matter most, the punters? Will they all use their newfound freedom to spend their money on going on holidays abroad rather than attending events? Do they actually have the confidence to come back? And I'll come back to that one at the moment. Will foreign tourists come flooding back into the UK? Well, I very, very much doubt it. There are lockdowns all over Europe. Other countries are not opening up. You know, look at China. Used to be the case we had huge numbers of Chinese tourists all over London attending events and doing things and so on. But if they come over here, then when they get home, they have to lock themselves up in a hotel for a couple of weeks to self-isolate. It's hardly an incentive, it's not good. And then of course we have regulation. I mentioned it earlier when I talked to Theresa. The dreaded health protection coronavirus restrictions England #3 regulations are still with us, and they're going to be with us until at least the 24th of March, and we may well have them a lot longer. What a threat that is. Organising your event, safety advisory groups, they now seem to involve public health people all the time. We have Martin's Law, safeguarding, all the obstacles that will put in the way of just having a jolly big open event in the town centre or on the carnival field or the village green or whatever. We've got to have plans in place for security in case we're attacked by some lunatic. And that means that we've got to have more detailed event management planning. And what about the other challenges that are in the way to prevent us from building back better? Well, green issues. Single-use polystyrene and plastics are to be banned. How are the poor old caterers at our events going to cope with that? I seem to remember not so very long ago one esteemed member of NOAA came up with this wonderful idea of selling bottles of wine in plastic bottles, because there was a big issue about having glass at event sites and all the rest of it. And then, of course, somebody comes along and says, oh, no, it's plastic. Can't have plastic anymore, mate. It's all got to be recyclable and so on. I mean, in his case, you can't win. And of course, we're a national organisation. We cover Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland, and last and of course, least, England, says he is a Welshman. They all have different rules and regulations. We have COVID passports in some parts of our great nation. You have requirements to prove that you've had tests in other parts of the nation, etc. And of course, an awful lot of our members, they work abroad. They may be British based, but they hold events all over the world, and in particular all over Europe. And let's forget about Brexit and the consequences of all of that just for one moment. They can't go and do their events there because those countries have even more stringent rules than we are, and there is no sign of an early exodus. My final proof is this. Here we are, the National Outdoor Event Association annual convention, and we're not in Bath. Why aren't we all together? Why not? Are we confident enough right now today to book the Roman Baths for next year, because it'll all be over and done with and the event industry will have built back better? I very much doubt it. COVID, ladies and gentlemen, is here to stay. The event industry will never be the same and will certainly not be able to build back better before all of this started. The motion is nonsense. Please vote against it. You turkeys, it's Christmas.
Very good, Philip. Very good. Thank you very much for that impassioned discussion. Yeah, we'll have to think about next year, the convention next year. I think Craig is already voting for a in-person event, as are many on this call, I'm sure, as well. But appreciate that as well. I've got a few points through, but before I sort of do, what I wouldn't mind doing, if it's okay, is just, if you can, just what we'll do is we'll do a raise hand for the motion, and if you against the motion, don't say anything at all, i.e. keep your hands down. This is a real test of people who have switched on or are still doing other things in the background. So if you are for the motion that we are ready to build back better, can you just raise your hand now? We'll get an idea of how we're all doing. Okay. So we're about just under 50% think yes, and just over 50% think no. All right, so we've got some catching up to do, to do, Liz. I think, Tom, did you have your hand up as well, just to add something into the motion as well? If you did, I'm bringing you in to the conversation to make a point, of which everyone is allowed to do likewise. It would be wrong not to allow the president, though. So Tom, come on, make your point. You should be in just a second. Tom, you're in. Oh, you just need to unmute. Oh, there we go. There we go.
I was trying to do that, but I kept clicking on it and it wouldn't let me unmute. Philip, I'm now looking for a rope and a noose. You've so destroyed me there. I want to hang myself. I firmly believe, and I don't, you know, it's a play on words, and we'll build back better, like you said, build it better than 219 or 221 or 220. I think our industry will come back stronger, if that's maybe a better word, but it will take a bit of time. You know, there is definitely a supply problem at the moment. Simply because a lot of the supply stuff, port cabins, marquees, what have you, are all at these testing stations. Ultimately, they're going to finish. Hospitals seem to have a lot of security on them because, you know, they used to have maybe 3 or 4 doors into hospitals. You'd wander in for whatever ward, but they now put guys on it to say, sorry, where you going, Willie? We'll bet around the other way and all of this. That's eventually going to stop, and we'll get these people back. I think, though, your doom and gloom, and biggest doom and gloom, if we're going to have doom and gloom, will be because of license constraints put upon us. You know, as an event industry, it doesn't really matter what comes up, we embrace it. You know, event organisers embrace it, they bring it on board and they change it. You know, but when the terrorism thing really started, you know, we moved with it, not a problem. You know, last year when we opened up in August, and local authorities all of a sudden didn't want, you know, 1 or 2 entrances into events, they wanted 10 entrances, we encompassed that. You know, not a problem. It might cost more money, which ultimately would suggest the ticket prices have what? I think, you know, you're wrong, Philip. I'm sorry, pal. I think you're wrong in that, but I do think we will have to change, and we'll have to change dramatically. At this moment in time, if you want to go out and hire a porta cabin, it's probably 33 to 50% dearer than what it was in 2019, the same canvas. Yes, there's a problem with boards on the ground, whether they're putting up marquees or, you know, delivering port cabins or doing crowd management. Wages are not enough. The transport industry's seen that. And at the end of the day, without being disrespectful to anybody, if I can go to McDonald's as a 19, 20-year-old and earn £11 an hour, why would I want to come and, you know, stand in the rain, put a marquee up for £10 an hour? So we need to address that, which will mean, unfortunately, the event organisers will have to pay a bit more, which means ultimately the poor person buying a ticket will have to buy more. I think there'll be more sponsorship. You know, I noticed that First Republic did a deal with Cinch, the car people, so all their events are now called the Cinch Reading Festival, and the Cinch Transmit and things like that, you know. So they must have got good money, and that all helps it all. But I generally do think we will come back better. And as Liz said, you know, for 18 months we've been kicking our heels, you know, looking at things. It might not be 222. We'll be building towards in 222, but I think by the time we get to 224, you know, yes, COVID will be with us. The COVID measures that we do will still be with us, and we'll just embrace them. You know, you'll be able to buy a ticket now, you know, in 224 online, and you'll be able to go into it and prove that you've had your vaccinations and that you're a clean person. You know, you'll turn up a new type of lateral flow that'll be zapped and what have you as part of your ticket, and the process will become so much easier. And we will work with it, and we will bring it on board and make it happen. And I do think that at the end of 224, the quality of events will be so much better.
Thank you, Tom. I will allow both Philip and Liz maybe to respond to some of those points, especially around budget as well. But by the way, by all means, put your hands down now, unless you're looking to make a point. Otherwise, I will pick on you. So yeah, hands down unless you want to make a point. But Philip, I think Tom's "you're completely wrong" thing deserves it gives you a chance to answer first. But I'd be interested in your response as well to that, Liz.
Tom's forever thinking that I'm wrong about things. You know, and he keeps on thinking, you know, doom and gloom and all the rest of it. But you know, I'm afraid that over the last 2 years, I have been proven right. You know, I've got my look. My event management. Yeah. Right. It's the first time. Sorry, it's the second time that I've worn that since March of not last year. Last year. You know, it's just crazy. Am I going to get a chance to be wearing that in and out all next year? No, because all these things are going to stop me. It's not going to happen. You know, I'm sorry, you're all turkeys. Christmas is coming, end of. You know, I hate to be the merchant of doom and gloom, but the event industry simply cannot cope. You might come back. Yes, you will. Back better than last year? Yeah, of course. It'd be disaster. Absolutely, if you didn't. But to get back to the sort of levels and the fun and enjoyment and all the rest of it, you know, I got freebie VIP ticket to a certain event. I won't mention where it was because I'd sorted out all their licensing for them. Yeah, but you've got to do a PCR test before you can come in as a condition. And it was, you've got to be kidding. No, I'm not going through all that. I'm not going. And if all of these restrictions are still there next year, and I fear that they will be, particularly in Scotland, Tom, you know, your rules are tighter up there than they are down here for starters. The punters aren't going to come back. They're not going to do it. And it's all going to be more expensive. It's end of the world, part 2.
Thanks, Philip. Liz, maybe you've got something to add on a more positive note. I'm conscious I'm asking about budgets and things like that as well, I'm afraid. So go on, give us a reason to be cheerful.
Well, actually, Philip, the back of your talk's really quite appealing. So perhaps if you could just face the other way. But I think, you know, you go on about not wanting to do tests and stuff. I bet you do everything you're told to do before you get on a plane. And you don't question that. It's just part of everyday life, putting your little toothpaste into a little clear bag. Yeah, it's a pain in the arse to start with, but you get used to it. People said with CDM, oh, it's never going to last in our industry. It's a complete waste of time. It's too much work. It's going to cost too much. Guess what? We all embrace it now. You know, it's a safer place. People do things properly. Yes, COVID's not quite in the same league, but it is going to be around just like the flu is. You know, no one said it's going to be easy. There was no easy in the title of this debate. You know, yes, we're going to get better at it because that's what we do. We're resilient. We're great. We're fantastic. We employ fantastic lawyers just to make sure that we're covered. So if you know any, let me know. But, you know, yes, things are going to cost a bit more. We put up all our crew wages. You know, we wanted to thank them for everything that they did in the season this year. They went above and beyond. They were incredible. And we've had to pass that cost on to our clients. We can't afford to lose these crew. Not one of my clients has complained. They all think it's fantastic that we're going to have the same crew, that they're going to see the people that they know, that there is still going to be able to deliver to that high standard. My trucking costs have gone up, but they also know that my stuff gets delivered on time. It's where it should be, when it should be. And I think, you know, they put the price up on your favourite box of Maltesers in the supermarket. You don't boycott it. Well, you might, but the rest of us don't. And I think you get what you pay for. And I think, yes, it is going to, you know, maybe people don't buy quite as many tickets to events. But what they will do is they will buy the ones, they will do their research and find the best, which will mean that all the organisers do their research and make sure that what they offer the clients is the best it can be. And that will help us all to build back better.
Thank you very much, Liz. Thank you. I think I've got a point from Craig behind the scenes. Craig, can you bring yourself in? You're the best placed person to do that actually today. Nice to see your face, Craig, and not just behind the scenes, mate. But if you could make a point, that'd be awesome.
I feel like I'm emerging from underneath a rock, so it's quite nice to be here. When you were both talking, I couldn't help but feel for every licensing authority in England and Wales, because Philip almost had me doubting my true inner beliefs of how much better the event industry is going to be moving forward. So, yeah, just a fascinating debate, really, really insightful. My view on it, and it was more a view than a question, really, is I see that not only are we going to build back better, we're going to build back in a world full of opportunity. There is people who have left our industry, and that is a real shame, and people who've left with absolute oodles of experience and expertise, and that's really sad. But actually, for me, events are about people, and they're about the next generation of people and event professionals that can come forward and can come and make the special things that we work together to create. And I feel inherently passionate about that. And actually, that's why I come to work every day and why I love working with such a young and dynamic team as we do. So actually, I look at opportunity and I say, well, there is a real chance here for the next generation of events people. And those people, they have a greater social conscience. So I think it's really hard to disagree with that. And I think actually the events that they create in the future, having heard Stephanie talking earlier, they're going to be more diverse, more equal, by more representative of the society we serve. And also that those events are going to have a greater view on sustainability and reducing the impact on what it is that we do. My biggest fear probably is who's going to pay for it all, because those changes and those developments are challenging. But yeah, I inherently believe that despite Philip's cracking argument to the contrary, that we're in a wonderful position to bounce back better. And I sit here as someone who ran an event this year that, after the most challenging 18 months we've ever had more people through the door than we've ever had. And if you can do that in a post-pandemic recovery with 42 days notice, imagine what we can do with maybe a few months to get ahead.
Fantastic. Craig, thanks. Brilliant. That lovely argument as well. Liz, why don't I give you the first chance to massively agree with Craig before we see what Philip has to say about that.
Well, I totally agree with Craig, and having, with him having gone through the experience this year, as he said, and being able to do it kind of almost as the guinea pigs straight out the trap, enough of the industry were involved in something this year, whether it was their own event or whether they were helping out with another event. There were lots of lessons to be learned. There were lots of conversations had. People have been much more open and frank than they've ever been, especially, from my experience. Collaboration is vital. You're talking to your competitors a lot more. You're recommending each other when you can't help something, because everybody wants the events industry to get back. It might not be as big to start with, as Tom said. It's going to have to build up. But what we do know as an industry is we are consummate professionals, and what we do really, really well, and we will continue to do that. So whilst we might not be at full speed for the next 12 months, we will certainly be back out there doing incredible events. Ticket sales will continue to grow, which will further support the public's belief and desire to go to public events. We have to be realistic. We have to know our limitations, and it's best to do less and do it better than to do more and set yourself up to fail. But we will build back better.
Thanks, Liz. And Philip, what give us your thoughts on Craig's argument.
I'm sorry, but Craig is the exception that proves the rule, isn't it? Come on. Bournemouth Sevens, I happen to know a little bit about them, and I happen to know a little bit about Craig. They rolled over, not once, not twice, but 3 times. It's a fantastic event, and very loyal people who didn't demand their money back. Well, most of them didn't. And there was this huge pent-up demand from the mainly younger people who just wanted to get out and do something, you know, and we saw the same thing the day the pubs reopened and so on. So everybody flocked there, and yeah, Bournemouth Sevens was a huge success, but it didn't have any serious competition, Craig. You were out there pioneering, you were alone. It cannot possibly be regarded as a precedent as to what's going to happen to the event industry next year. It was a one-off, it was an exception. That won't happen again across the industry as a whole. And I know that there were one or two little issues. He managed to deal with them. Well done, Craig. Fantastic event organizer, fellow council member. But in the great scheme of things, the event industry is not in a position to build back better longer term.
Thank you, Philip. Well, look, thanks for those points. Now, we will allow us sort of, before we'll do one more vote after some closing arguments from Liz and Philip. And while you get your minds around how you're going to close these arguments, I think it's probably worth sort of saying, from a NOAA point of view, I think I'd be remiss to say that we are certainly looking hard at education around these sort of things. As Tom said right at the top, we need all the people back that we've lost, as many as possible, and B, we need the new people to get upskilled as quickly as humanly can. So NOAA's doing its bit to support that and kind of make it all happen. And I think the next year for NOAA hopefully will be a supportive one for the industry, but hopefully will be an exciting one for us as well as we continue to push forward. But there's my plug. I've done it. Now for a closing argument, and I think we'll pick on Liz again. You've had slightly longer, just to give us that last thing. Let's see if you can convert those last few attendees from a Build Back Better perspective, please.
Okay, well, just to follow on from what you said about NOAA, we're members of a number of other trade associations, and every single one has reported an increase in membership. I think it's the time that people realise that they can't necessarily go out alone and do it. There is a lot to be said about sharing of knowledge and information. As has been, we've seen it quite a lot, where there is a venue that has numerous events on back to back. The different organisers are talking to each other, they're sharing infrastructure. There's a lot of collaboration going on, looking at different ways to do things. And not just because of a shortage of kit, but it's a financial benefit. It's greener if you're not transporting in the same thing, but from somebody different week in, week out. So there are lots of different ways. It's forcing us to reevaluate how we do things. And that's what will make us better. We didn't say bigger, we said better. And that is the big difference. We're going to do it better. We're going to be better people for it. We're going to deliver better events. We're going to look after our environment more. We're going to be more inclusive and diverse in who we work with and how we deliver things. And it's up to us as the most resilient industry going to really push forward and set an example for all other industries.
Thanks so much, Liz. That was lovely. Appreciate it. And thank you for fighting for the defense of this motion. Philip.
There's no other industry that'd have me. I have to keep it going.
I'm sure that's not true. Philip, over to you, my friend.
Ella, you've asked a question. As discussed, there's a lot of events planned for next year already, and there are real concerns about the logistics, i.e. toilets, security, etc. But do we have the audience for it? Also, how do we maintain quality visitor experience with difficulties around logistics? Precisely. Do I need, more advocacy in favour of voting against this motion? But this is a debate. And you, our attendees and fellow panelists, are the jury. And in common with any other trial, you must make your decision on the evidence that is before you. You must not be emotive about this. That would be wrong. If you were emotive about it, we would end up with the miscarriages of justice that we see day in, day out, year in, year out in that great United States of America. Think O.J. Simpson. Think that 18-year-old with a, what was it, submachine gun or something, gunning people down in the street because he wanted to protect. And they get found not guilty. All of the evidence in this case points one way. This motion must be defeated. Now I'm going to end as I started. I'm here as a lawyer. I occasionally have to defend or argue the indefensible, simply because I'm defending somebody who is clearly as guilty as sin does not mean to say that I agree with him, her, it, or whatever. I have my own thoughts about the event industry and what it'll happen, but the fact of the matter is that you have to vote according to the evidence, and on that basis, I win, Liz loses, game over.
This is not a trial, it's a debate.
Same thing.
Thanks so much. Right. Well, thank you for those impassioned degrees. I realized that I didn't vote last time, so I'm weighing in on this one as well. So let's see how we go. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask people to raise their hands to support Liz, that we will build back better, and just to keep your don't do anything essentially if you think that you're with Philip, and we'll see how we go. I'm just raising mine now. How are we doing? I'm afraid there's a couple of new. Oh, Philip, well done. Well done. I think, Philip, you actually pushed it over towards Liz's side. That's fantastic. The motion is, what's the wording, Philip? Is kept, sustained?
It's carried.
It's carried. Thank you.
It will build back better. Of course it will. It was a pleasure and a bit of fun to try and persuade turkeys to vote for Christmas, and I'm so glad that I lost.
Fantastic. Thank you
so
much. Thank you. So came second again. No, that's brilliant.
I owe you a pint or two.
Yeah, so does he for what he did earlier on, but that's another story.
That's right. It's going to be straight into the Noah coffers on that one. No, that's brilliant. Look, first of all, thank you so much for having some fun with that, Philip and Liz. I really appreciate that. We will look forward to doing the big debate again in person in live next year in Bath, hopefully. So it will be lots of fun there as well. By all means, everyone can raise their hands unless they want to make a specific point for the remainder of this session. If so, we've again, we give the gift of time. Hang on, I'm just double checking. Do raise it, and unless you want me to bring you into the conversation, do drop your hands.
I think you got two. I think you got Byron. You got
right. Okay. Well, sorry. I beg your pardon, Byron. I'm going to bring you in first, if that's okay. I was about to finish the motion early and give everyone another cup of tea, but no. I think that was an accident. Right. I will. In which case, Tom, I'm going to bring you in, promote you. Bring you up, and we have 2 points to make here. Tom, you're on mute, but yeah, you can come off. Go on, Tom.
Yeah, you got to give me time in a minute to pick my wee button to whatever it is to do.
Of course, sorry.
No. I mean, I'm up in Livingston at the moment, so it's a long way away. So wee buttons and that, So you bring me in for what, Al? Remind me again. It took me that long to get in. I forgot.
Yeah, no, you left your hand up accidentally, or you left your hand up because you wanted to make an addition to the conversation. Although we have already voted, Tom.
And I voted, for it. We will build back better. I think Philip was tremendous in putting his piece across. especially as I don't actually think he believed it. But that's a good solicitor. Liz, tremendous as ever. I like your comment about nobody else will employ you, you've got to stay in events. Well, you're two of a kind there, because that's the way it is. But there'll be no, there might be a bit of doom and gloom, but we'll get through it. We just encompass things. The downside is that ultimately tickets for events and there is a fair ticket public out there. I mean, every event that's gone on sale for 222 is sold out within a matter of a short time. And saying that, I'm not too sure if something at Bath Town Hall sold out that fast, but I'm told that they're all doing well. It will be good. We will get there, and I think there's a great appetite for it. And the only thing that's going to cause us a problem is going to be all this silly red tape that comes from councils.
Thanks, Tom.
Philip licks his lips at that one, because he knows that, even though sometimes he just really annoys me with saying these things, but he knows we'll come back to him.
Thanks very much, Tom. No, appreciate that. And I'll close my own personal thoughts, which is there is something about people that just want to keep on going to events, and B, event organizers who keep on just wanting to organize them despite the many stresses and tribulations that comes with it. So based on that note, I think that's why I voted for the motion. Like I say, we've got a little bit of time before the next session, so there's plenty of time to make a cup of tea. We're going to close this one down, and remember, just come on to the next session at 3:30, where we'll be listening to Matt Ashton and talking a little bit about public health and events. It should be a really informative session, so it's well worth coming back for. But by all means, go and grab yourself a cuppa before you do. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you on the other side.